Okay, so this is due for... No, it's not love yoga. Okay, let's start again. I think I need a little gap anyway. Hey, this is Stu for Purple Valley Asana School, and today we're going to look at Upavishta Konasana. And so your entry into this posture will either be from Dandasana, you've jumped through, you've scuttled your legs through, you're in Dandasana, and then you're going to part your legs, or if you're a little bit flashed, you're going to jump right the way through and part your legs in the air, and then gracefully put your butt and your legs down on the floor. So we're going to start with our legs apart. Roughly the length of your leg is between your legs. Yeah, we're going to go for that sort of distance. The knee is facing directly to the ceiling, the feet are active. So this is our starting position. And then what we're going to try and do is going to move from the hip, and we're just going to hinge at the hip and take our hands around the outsides of our feet and bring our chest towards the floor and place it on the floor if we can, and place our chin down on the floor. Karolina is very open in this position, so she's gone very deep into it. But the chances are that you're going to be much more up than that. So if you come up for us, Karolina. And it may be that actually you're here, yeah? That not even there, maybe you're here, yeah? Because if your Paschimottanasana or your forward folds are a restriction, and also you're a little bit tight in the groin, then you can be like a double whammy, and you can be like, oh my God, I've met all my restrictions at once, and I'm just here, yeah, and the tendency is you want to just round to actually feel like you're going down. But for a lot of people, can feel absolutely stuck here, as if they're not going to go anywhere, yeah? And so again, this is a relatively simple posture to break down, not necessarily simple to do because of your restrictions, but there's not a lot, so there's nothing really going on with the upper body that is going to stop you doing this posture. You're just going to grab hold of your feet, yeah? What happens again is it's all at the hips, yeah? So the two movements that are going on here, if you watched our Baddha Konasana one, we were talking about external rotation of the hip as being one of the elements for Baddha Konasana. And if you sit in Baddha Konasana, I could do it here. You can see that my thigh is much more rolled out. And if you look at the kneecap, it's rolled this way, yeah? Whereas Upavishta, the legs are not rolled out really, and the kneecap is facing the ceiling, yeah? And so the external rotation isn't a big element in this particular posture. But instead, the difference between this and this is that here your legs are straight, here your legs are bent. So one of the major factors in this will be the hamstrings on the back of the leg, and in particular the medial hamstrings, because the hamstrings on the inside, that's semitendinous, semimembranosus, are going to be put under more tension as the legs go wider, and less tension for our biceps femoris on the outside, yeah? So it's really the medial hamstrings, but also the adductors, because you're taking the legs apart, yeah? And so this is a posture that you get a lot of restriction from two different muscle groups, really, and can be one of those ones where you get stuck with. So if you are in this position where you're completely stuck, then it's worth trying to figure out what it is that's restricting you. So a really nice way of looking at a non-cheating posture would be to lay down in Supta Padangusthasana. So Karolina, you can have, head here. And then you're basically just going to take one leg up into the air. So there we go. And if you make sure that you keep your calf muscle on the floor here, if your leg finishes here, then that's a 90-degree angle, which means it's the same as sitting in Dandasana, yeah? So it means that when you come to do any of your seated forward folds, your seated forward fold is actually sort of sitting upright in Dandasana, because anything else that happens is going to be to do with rounding the back, yeah? If the leg comes to here, then you're moving forwards. If it comes further down, and notice I'm looking at her other leg to see whether this is coming off the floor as I'm doing it, then the chances are you're going to be moving much, much, much further forward. So if in your Upavishta you're stuck up, and in your Supta Padangusthasana your leg is here, then you can try working your range of motion for the back of your leg in Supta Padangusthasana. Is going to do you the world of good in all of your seated forward folds, to be honest, but also Upavishta. If you can't actually reach your foot in this position without bringing your upper body off the floor, because, okay, it's here, it's easy for her to grab. This is like playing with one of those sort of dolls that you can do anything with. It's quite cool. But let's say that you can't reach it here. Then get hold of a strap to actually get hold of your foot so as you're in a nice position and you don't have to sort of strain your upper body and neck, yeah? And then basically you're just encouraging the leg towards you and just hang out there for a good 10, 15 breaths, okay? So that will actually help your Upavishta Konasana as far as that goes. And then we also want to think about how can we work the legs apart. Well, I showed you the same sort of postures in the Baddha Konasana video, so we won't go over them again. But really you're thinking about doing some sort of split work where the legs are coming apart, so either by gravity or you can do it as far as, yeah, so we'd be dropping the legs out here, or we can do frog posture or anything else where we're working on their inner thighs. Yeah, cool. Okay, we bring you back to the top. So once you've opened yourself in those directions, then it would be worth you then separating it out to see which make the most difference. So maybe what you do is you try your Upavishta, then you do your Supta Balangastasana, then you try your Upavishta, see if it made a difference. Then you try your frog posture or something that opened the inner thigh. Then you try again and see whether that made any difference. Because we're all going to be slightly different because it depends where our own personal restrictions are. So it will be something is working you more than something that's working somebody else maybe. Yeah. So the main things are, again, that as you come forward, there will be a tendency, if you don't watch out for, as you come forward, for either your hips to be rolled in or for your hips to be rolled out, depending on what's pulling. So always keep the legs very active and actually contract the upper thigh and work as much as you can from the hip. If you find that you're getting stuck here, it can be that you can't reach your feet, in which case it's no big deal. You don't have to grab them. It may be you keep them here, or maybe that you walk your hands out in front of you, gives you a much nicer position to actually be in and allows you to come forward somewhat. This would be the same as any other posture that's a forward fold, as far as it may be that you need to raise your bum, because it could be that your pelvis is going backwards rather than even sitting in Dandasana. If your pelvis is going backwards, then it's going to be the same for any of those other forward folded postures, that you need something to bring your pelvis above your ankles, shall we say, that you feel a little bit of gravity taking you forwards. So again, you can sit on a block here. But the same thing goes that if you're on a block and your knee is off the floor and you have a tendency or a propensity to hyperextend the knee or feel vulnerable in the knees, also put something under the knee, not quite the same height as the hips, but a little bit in between the two to support the backs of the knees. Yeah. So raise this bit, pad that bit, and feel that gravity is coming forwards, and then feel very open in the chest. Yeah. So let's say that we have done our Upavishta A, and now we're thinking of doing Upavishta B. If Caro was right down on the floor, then potentially a teacher might say to her, okay, what you've got to do is you've got to try and keep hold of your feet, and from there, with momentum and magic, I think, because I'm not sure what else does it, you're meant to sit up and come to the B position, which is up in the air. If Caro shows you her fantastic effort at trying to do that, so this is what happens for most people, yeah? It's only the very odd few that can seem to do it. But for the most of us, we can then do two things. We can either, yeah, as Karolina very quickly demonstrated, draw our legs up, yeah, and grab hold of them. Or, if you really want to work on that strength, you could put your legs back down, I'm going to make her do it now, and place your hands in the air, yeah, first, and now try and draw your feet to your legs really slowly and under control, and take hold of them. So what? So you're going to stay here, but now you're going to try and draw your legs up to meet your hands, but slowly. So draw them up. Yeah. You can lift them off the floor. Okay, so maybe you'll have, you can lean back a bit.
Do we like this?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you don't have to stay too far back. Cramps. So that goes to show you that most of the time, as good as Karolina is, she's a cheetah, yeah? She uses momentum and shifting her body weight rather than using the activation of the muscles to draw the legs up. Yeah, cheetah. Okay, so you don't have to stay so far forward. You can come back a bit, but now try and use your own leg muscles to draw your legs up one at a time. Both together if possible. Gah. Shall I show you what it's meant to look like? Not that I can do it. So from here, what we want to do is just draw them. I'm leaning back a little bit, but just draw them up rather than just do it. And she grabbed for it. Okay. So there's some, that's good, the reality of, this is reality TV, yeah. So let's say that none of that is also possible, then it's also perfectly fine to just bring your legs in a little bit, get hold of the feet, so you might need to bend your knees so you can grab them, yeah, then try and sit up as straight as possible, and now start straightening your legs and take them out. Of course, if you found it difficult doing this on the floor, it's going to be super difficult also doing it in this position, because this is like a, if we kept Karolina as she was and then rolled her flat, she'd be like on her way to the floor. So the chances are you wouldn't necessarily be able to bend your legs, or you might find that your whole back was rounded. So rather than round the back, bend the knees, yeah? And then in that position as well, your head is facing the ceiling, but you're not, you're trying not to just hinge in the back of the neck. So imagine, like with all these things when we talk about looking up, that you've got an orange or an apple in the base of your neck, which you're sort of rolling over and giving you some base, and you're looking towards the ceiling. And then you're holding that for your number of breaths. And then I think it's nice to sort of try and come out of this also in control. So if you can, while you're here, then let go of your feet, and then bring them back down under control, or bring them in if you're going to jump back, rather than just sort of plonk yourself down, okay? So those are some of the key points really, I think, in Upavishta Konasana, and have a play with those. If you've got any questions, of course, you can always post them in the comments, and sorry for all the fluffing around in the middle, really. So take care, see you soon.